Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another episode of College Football Pros. I am Nick, and I'm joined, as always, by Superman without the cape, Drew Vanger. Is that a good nickname? I'm just trying stuff out.
I'll take it.
Superman
I'll take
without
it.
a cape.
I'll take it. I could be Superman. I can't
Without
fly,
a cape.
nor can I stop a train, nor am I superhuman strength. But yeah, I can be Superman. Sure.
But is your
If Dwight Howard can be Superman, I can be Superman.
Oh, yeah, that guy, yeah, he's not Superman.
No,
He's not my Superman.
No,
I'm
at
not
all.
saying you're my Superman either, because that just sounds weird.
We could break into the Eminem song.
I'd prefer not to.
Oh, okay.
For someone who doesn't like Eminem, me,
You don't like Eminem?
no.
Interesting.
I've seen him an inordinate amount of times in concert.
Really? I've
Yes.
never seen Eminem.
I do not know why. I cannot explain. Here's why. The first time it was the Family Values tour, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or it was some kind of tour, and Ludacris and Papa Roach were on it, and I was like, all right. Huh?
Luda.
Yeah, I was like,
I like
all
Luda.
right, I want to go see that show. I think it was like my senior year, so I was like, and he had just come out with the only CD I really liked, and that did have Superman on it, ironically enough.
Yep.
And then I went the next year, and he was doing like two shows the whole year, and they were both at Ford Field.
Nice. Because of Detroit and everything.
Yeah, and it was him and 50 and Missy Elliott.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I don't know why I went. I do not know. It's not that I dislike him. It's just that he's not my favorite.
I'm more of a rock concert guy. I've seen a lot of rock.
Who's your favorite?
Def Leppard.
Def Leppard. That is.
Yeah. Actually, me and my wife just went and saw them last month. They were in Youngstown here, so I've been a fan of them forever. They're my number one. But I've seen like Leonard Skinner, Poison, Warrant, Deep Purple, a lot of classic rock. So
I was more into the like new wave of metal at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, like Slipknot and
okay, I like
Fear
Slipknot.
Factory, and most of the other bands didn't have Spine Shank. They were bands that were big, but they didn't have a lot of mainstream visibility. They did in comparison to a lot of other bands in the genre.
Yeah,
but,
a lot of those metal bands are not mainstream friendly.
No,
like Lamb of God and stuff like that.
Right. Nowadays, I pretty much don't listen to anything that was recorded prior to like 2005.
I'm also a Linkin Park fan too. I like them.
Not bad.
I've never seen them in concert, but I'd like to. They're pretty cool.
I find myself going back to a lot of the rap I listened to when I went through that stage in my life in high school.
Right. We all have that.
I'm a big Jadakiss fan. So
I can't tell you honestly who that is.
Jadakiss?
Not a clue.
Well, he's a rapper. I
could have guessed that. But
do you know who? Let me think of someone else that I like. Well, if you don't know Jadakiss, you probably don't know Styles P.
Nah, dude.
They were in a group together. They're not a band when they're rappers. They're a group.
Right.
We're learning a lot today. This podcast is
just a learning podcast.
Full. It is. I'm thinking of changing the name to it. But yeah, I love.
I don't listen to music. I listen to like talk radio, like sports talk radio.
I listen to music when I'm driving, and I'm one of those people that even at 31 years old listens to it at an obnoxiously loud level. Does that anger you when you're by people like that?
No, dude. Like we just had this conversation today at work. People talk about your children when they listen to the music your parents listen to and stuff like that. So like, is my daughter going to be listening to like Snoop and Dre and like Def Leppard? Like, what? That's so weird to think about. Like, are we going to be like 90 years old, rolling down, sipping on gin and juice, in our caddy or something? You know what I mean? Like, our parents listen to the music that they grew up on. Our grandparents, same thing. So we could be listening to Dre, Snoop, Eminem. That's interesting to me.
I would imagine so. I actually thought about that because when I went through that period, I dressed very urban because I was from a heavily suburbanized area. So it was.
Yeah, I was to say, your high school, you didn't fit in, did you?
Well, I mean, I fit in with the people I hung around.
Right, that's true. That's all.
It was interesting. I went from like a metalhead where we were like. And no one in our school was outcast. It's such a weird dynamic. Seriously, it wasn't.
I know people from your school. They were some weird.
I'm just saying, how can you tell me that my school had outcasts, but I went there?
Because I
you
just
know
did.
what I'm saying? But I know, but it doesn't make it fact.
In my mind, it does. No,
Well,
no. I mean, I've known some people from your school, and there was
you
some
know me,
interesting-
so there's that. No, I mean, honestly, like, it was a really weird dynamic. Certainly people didn't get along, but
How many
like,
people in your grade? How many people?
like 250.
Holy crap, dude! That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for the most
went to
part,
school.
I wouldn't say I was close with all of them, but I can remember being around socially with almost everybody in my graduating class, and the class above and the class underneath me, to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know. I did a lot of things I shouldn't have, so I was always moving around, really heavily involved in the party scene at the end of my high school and then right out of high school. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know what that has to do with college football, but I think
And look at you now. You have a college football podcast.
I didn't even watch college football. I didn't even watch
I know.
sports in high school.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was
got
too
you.
busy.
I got you into college football. You're welcome.
That is true. You and money. Those are
That's true
things-
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Daily fantasy.
But I'm happy, dude, because, I mean, college football has become something everybody needs, like a hobby. You know what I mean? I think that everybody needs to do something that brings them enjoyment. And something as simple as college football brings me a lot of enjoyment around all the year round, because you're constantly analyzing and wondering and researching and you know, there's so much more to it than what appears at the surface. That's what really pulled me to college football. And it's a little more static, I think. Once you know what's happening, you can look at a matchup, and I think that's because you're like looking at a sub-level athlete to where not all of these people are NFL caliber. Whereas the NFL, I mean, is any one NFL player better than another?
No.
Like, obviously, Andrew Luck is better than Luke McCown,
Yeah.
but in all likelihood,
good.
Luke McCown might have a better game this year than Andrew Luck does.
Right. And you want to know what I've said for years about college football and the pros. In college, you're playing to get the money, and you're playing your heart out because like some of the teams in the AAC or Sun Belt or MAC, they know their career is over after college. When you get to the NFL, you're playing for money. You're playing because it's your job. College kids play for the love of the game and to get the money. So this is what really draws me to college football, and it has forever. I watch NFL, I enjoy it, but I don't have a team. I follow players, players that I like or players from Miami. But college is so much better in my personal opinion. And I know if you look at the numbers and stuff, the NFL is far and above, money, the way they draw money and draw ratings are better than college. But man, there's nothing funner than sitting on a Saturday, a Friday, a Wednesday, watching these kids play, because it's just, you can see the passion in their eyes.
Yeah, you really can. I hope the NFL never expands further than where they're at right now.
No, I mean, they don't need to go to England. They don't need to go to Canada.
No, I meant in terms of the scope of their schedule. Like, it's not going to cause me to say, oh, Toledo and Akron are playing tonight, but so is Baltimore and Miami.
Nope.
100% of the time, I'm watching Toledo and Akron.
100%. Dude, it doesn't matter what college game. It could be Harvard and Yale. No, that's a bad example, because that's actually
a very bad example.
No, it could be anybody, dude. Name the two names in division.
Why just SMU and Connecticut?
I'm watching that over Baltimore and San Francisco every day.
I would, because there is a likelihood that either 0 or 100 points will be scored in that game.
Yeah,
and really no in between.
I'm watching Ivy League over NFL. I'm watching 1AA. I'm watching. If it's college football, I'm watching it. Doesn't matter.
I'm not going to go that far. I don't see much 1AA around.
They're on like your Fox affiliates and stuff like that.
I catch them if they're on like at night after the regular. But I get the point. The point's there, and I'm with you on that. There's just something about college football.
And you want to know what there's something about? There's something about the AAC West.
Okay. All right, yeah. I can get down with that. I mean, we covered the East yesterday, and, I mean, with no disrespect intended, it's pretty weak. Side.
This is where the party's at, is in the West. The party's
so the East, I think we would consensus come to the fact that it's like Cincinnati, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think we said that in the last podcast, but yeah, it's Cincinnati.
We didn't. We were really just trying to push through it.
Yeah.
It was really rough. No offense, AAC.
Yeah, exactly. But you're talking about music and stuff like that. You remember Montel Jordan?
Oh yeah, man.
This is how we do it. The party's here on the west side. This is where it's at right now.
Isn't
this
it the
is
same
west
way
side.
in the SEC too? All the fun's on the west side.
Yeah, it's stacked.
It's like 7 out of 8 teams could be in the playoffs, and I think the other one's Vanderbilt.
There's only 7. There's only 7 teams in the West, but yeah, I get your point.
Oh, okay, it's 6 out of 7, and maybe the other. I don't know. You get what I'm.
Well, no,
trying to
Vanderbilt's
say.
on the East, so yeah, West side is.
I was trying. All right. I mean, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think people got the point, but yeah, let's talk Houston. Let's start there.
Well, Houston to me, and not even to me, but statistically, was the 65th ranked passing offense, the 44th ranked rushing offense, the 58th ranked overall offense, the 28th ranked passing defense, the 37th ranked rushing defense, the 20th ranked overall defense. They scored 29.8 points. They allowed 20.6, and they were one of my favorite teams, hands down, last year.
I seriously love watching this team play, especially with Tom Herman coming in from Ohio State, Major Applewhite as our offensive coordinator. Dude, this team with Greg Ward Jr. at quarterback, Kenneth Farrell at running back, I'm sold. Let's go. Let's start the season right now. I'm so excited.
Let's go back to 2013, and you and I both remember how fun it was watching John O'Korn and Deontay Greenberry, and it was like a revelation when those two guys were on the field together. And last year, I mean, I really feel like we just watched both of them completely and totally fall apart.
Well, I think it was the scheme, too, that the coaching staff was putting them in. They were not put in positions to succeed. They were put in positions to fail. This year with Tom Herman coming in, like I said, Greg Ward Jr. is going to be a fantasy star in his conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just his conference. I mean, he's going to be a fantasy star, period.
Do you think that game, their first game against Tennessee Tech, do you think that game's on the slate?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
No.
It's interesting to think
There's
about.
There's a possibility that some of these schools, some of these sites might do that, but I would just exercise caution because, like, if they do that.
All right, how about
Houston's
in a couple weeks? Yeah. Yeah, I know. I agree with what you're saying, and I know Tennessee Tech, yada, yada, yada. What about a couple weeks later against Texas State, Sun Belt team? You think they're on the slate?
Oh, there's no question about. Well, they'll be on a slate.
Right.
It specifically comes down to what site you're talking about.
True.
And sometimes a team will be like on a just morning slate, but they won't be put on an all-day slate. The all-day slate might be like, quote-unquote, the better teams.
I got
So you won't get the Texas States in there. And let's face it, with no disrespect to the AAC, they're kind of a fringe as well.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Just look at it as like Power 5 teams will be on the all-day slate, and then you'll find more situations. But
I mean, my point was, whoever Greg Ward Jr. and Kenneth Farrell are playing, if they're playing, like, maybe not against Louisville the second game of the season, maybe not when I'm playing.
Yeah, that's a tough D. But
yeah, but if you're playing Texas State and that game's on the slate, man, I love Greg Ward Jr. and Kenneth Farrell.
Yeah, and I mean, pricing ultimately is the most important thing here. Last year, Greg Ward was a wide receiver at minimum price on FanDuel for 2 weeks when he started. So it was blind, those 2 weeks, that was the first person put in my roster.
Right.
Because I knew that it was going to adjust everything else upward. And if you're making a lineup and you're able to put a minimum price tight end that are like $3,000, and minimum priced receivers and all other positions are at like $4,500, so $3,000, $4,500. If you're able to sink $7,500 of your salary between two positions, you've got like $28 to spend between 5, maybe more than no, it's got to be more than that. But you can end up spending like $7,500 per position, maybe even $8 per position. And that puts you in a ballpark where you could look at taking a guy like Melvin Gordon and then still not have yourself completely screwed last year. Right. Now, this year it's not going to happen. This year Ward's going to be priced. I still feel like in those situations he probably will be priced down initially because he doesn't have a household name. Houston is not a major conference school, so there will be given a little bit of disrespect to those guys at the beginning of the year. By the end of the year, I don't think he's a Trayvon Boykin. I don't think he's a Dak Prescott. I don't think he's one of those guys that's so full of production the team runs through him. So that hurts his fantasy stock a little bit. I think you have to keep the expectations in line for what this offense is because, like you said, Kenneth Farrell is a machine. He's a monster. I think he's going to have a great shot, at 200 carries. I think Ryan Jackson as well, he's going to get his carries probably like 100, maybe 110, something like that. Definitely going to be one of the better running units in the country. I mean, they finished 44th there last year and that was with Ward, I believe, coming in at quarterback near the middle of the season. Does that sound right?
Yeah, he wasn't the quarterback the whole year.
No, I know he wasn't. John Egg O'Corn wasn't. He is
right.
Where now? He moved somewhere, maybe Illinois, Indiana, something like that.
I have no idea.
He transferred out. I know that.
Okay.
But yeah, moral of the story is this is going to be a tough team. Markeith Ambles is gone. Deontay Greenberry's gone. DeMarcus Ayers looks like the guy on offense, and that defense is a tough defense. The defensive line is changing schemes, so that's going to affect the front seven pretty well.
John O'Corn transferred to Michigan.
Okay. I knew it was one of those Big Ten teams.
He has to sit out a year, but yeah, he transferred there. Sorry.
Well, he's not going to play at Michigan. I'm just going to put that out there.
He might next year until Harbaugh can get his quarterbacks in there. But yeah, I mean, he might play a 1 year stopgap is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. So what do you think about this defense?
I think, they finished 15th overall in scoring defense last year. I think they have the potential to stay the same. However, they lost a ton up front. They lost their linebacking core, so I think they might take a step back. And by that, I mean, still top 25 defense. And if this offense can click and can be a, top 40 offense, I think this team might crack the top 25 somewhere in the season. I don't know if they end there, but I think they crack it maybe mid-season, 25-24 range.
Always cause for concern for me is when you're changing schemes.
Right.
So that has me a little bit worried, but overall, I think this is a strong team. Moving on, we'll go to Memphis, 57th ranked passing offense, 40th ranked rushing offense, the 49th ranked overall offense, the 63rd ranked passing defense, the 19th ranked rushing defense, the 28th ranked overall defense. They scored 36.2 points. They allowed 19.5. Drew, what do you think about Memphis in 2015?
Paxton Lynch, star in his conference. He's 6'7". The quarterback is 6'7". That's unbelievable. I mean, this kid is fantastic up and down. Let's just start and stop right there because he lost a ton around him. So it is going to start and stop with him. Running back wise, Duarlin Dorcrocus. I don't know how to pronounce these names, bro.
That was great.
That's close enough. He's probably going to get the first look, or Jarvis Cooper, but Paxton Lynch is the star of this offense.
What about Sam Kraft? Isn't he still involved in this offense?
I don't know who that is.
He was the running back, receiver/running back, but I thought from what I saw, he looked poised to be the starting back.
Oh, I have him a receiver.
Okay.
Maybe they put him in running back. I apologize.
No, I'm not sure because, like I said, he was one of
did everything.
At the same time Ward transitioned to quarterback last year, he was listed on FanDuel as a running back, or he was listed on FanDuel as a wide receiver, but they put him at running back. So it was like, okay, take two guys at minimum price, one playing quarterback, one playing running back, and so you could essentially play two quarterbacks and three running backs on your team.
Right. Yeah, I have him listed
really
as
good
slot.
Scenario.
Yeah, I got him as a slot receiver this year. I think they might want to put him there more. Don't know. But again, you can play running back. So if you get one of these guys banged up or something, you could put him back at running back and be confident.
Right. I like the receiving core. Mose Frazier, Tevin Jones, and a great tight end in Alan Cross. So I think Lynch definitely has the weapons. And he's going to be looking to raise his draft stock because, right after the draft happened, obviously you look towards the next year. And he was one of the first names coming up. So one thing about him that kind of gets overlooked is that he is an effective runner.
He is at 6'7". Yeah,
touchdowns on the ground. So I don't know if that's sustainable, but this is definitely a guy who is averaging one rushing touchdown per game last year. That is something you kind of want to look at when you're doing daily fantasy. That definitely puts him in a position where he needs to be considered. On the defense, go ahead.
I'm saying I don't want to tackle him. I don't want to tackle a 6'7" quarterback. I'm getting out the way.
Yeah, I mean that seemed to be what the mentality was. On defense, the line loses the top two, they return the rest, they bring in some junior college transfers. Same story at linebacker minus the transfers, but the defensive backs lose 90 career starts. So I don't know. I think overall I'm going to say that this defense should be worse than it was last year. That 19.5 points per game is certainly questionable at this point. I would see them having a hard time keeping teams under 20 points, but I think this offense actually has room to improve.
I do agree. Paxton Lynch has got to gel with some of his receivers coming in, JUCOs, a couple high-profile guys coming in. But yeah, the defense takes a step back. 11 last year as overall defense. I think they take a step back. Probably, I would even say, dude, down to the 30s because they lost so much production.
Yeah, that makes sense. You don't lose that much and just stay where you're at. I mean, unless you're recruiting better than every other coach out there, it's just not that likely.
No.
Navy in 2014 had the second worst passing offense, the third best rushing offense for the 53rd ranked overall offense. They had the 32nd ranked passing defense, the 96th ranked rushing defense, the 72nd ranked overall defense. They scored 31.8 points. They allowed 27.3. And Keenan Reynolds will be back. He's always an exciting player to watch. And, if you want to talk about a guy where it starts and stops with, it's Keenan Reynolds in this Navy team.
Absolutely. I mean, another triple option team, Service Academy school. This is the first year in a conference. So this team has a potential to compete for a conference title or conference championship. And I don't see why they can't, very honestly. I mean, I think they're that good. Definitely go bowling again this year. And they've played AAC teams in the previous years, so it's not like they're coming into a conference completely blind on who they're playing. So, these teams hate to play triple option. I don't care if you're, the big Power 5 conferences or smaller conferences. The triple option is such a hard offense to scheme for and to practice against because your scout team isn't used to running a triple option, so it always gives people problems. And this team is a team that can compete for the whole thing this year.
I agree. The offensive line loses 3 multi-year starters, and initially that makes you kind of second guess their ability to be competent to handle the triple option. But if you're running a triple option, the offensive line position is probably the position that you're going to be recruiting best for because you need to have them. You need to have high quality starters.
And you go to Navy, so you're not dealing with people that aren't academically they're smart.
Exactly. Yeah. Noah Copeland had a very quiet 2014, almost hitting 1,000 yards. As somebody who is consistently looking at box scores and statistics, when I saw that, I honestly was like, I don't know how I missed this guy. 1,000 yards isn't the greatest measure, but when you have someone like Keenan Reynolds on your team who is seeing the majority of the production, that's good. I mean, that's really good. Chris Swain had almost 700, and he's going to be in that Copeland position this year. So I could see him being, right where Copeland was last year as being a good, number 2 to Keenan Reynolds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team on offense is they are what they are, and they do it better than probably anybody in the nation besides Georgia Tech, and that's from that triple option. Defensively, they're going to be, disciplined is the best word, to describe this defense is disciplined. They're going to know where they want to be when they want to be there. They may not have the pure athletes of some of these other teams, but I mean, when you have a team like Navy and you only have 3 to 4 days to prepare for this team, the defense is going to be better, in my opinion, this year.
I think that's realistic to say. I mean, I think overall you're not going to find a Navy team that's struggling on defense. I don't think you're going to find a Navy team that is necessarily, one of the best defenses in the country either. It is what it is. I think it's going to be a solid team. It's going to be a team that's going to compete even coming into the conference. They're not, like you said, they're not going from a schedule of cupcakes to a schedule of, I don't know what the AAC would be. I don't know if we're comparing them to food items, what they would be. but they're going to be taking on more than cupcakes. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, and I think this team has what it takes to compete.
So let's talk about one of my favorite teams in the AAC. Do you know who that is, Drew?
SMU.
And hold on, this is going to take me a long time to get all of the statistics out because there's so many digits, so many high numbers here. They appear to have been the worst team in college football last year. Not only did they appear to be, they were. Just before I even get into the statistics, I mean, it was SMU first in terms of how to game plan for daily fantasy. They could take a guy who's completely average and turn them into Barry Sanders.
And they open up against Baylor too. So what does that tell you?
Well, that tells me that that game will probably be on slates, and it's a really tough one to try to navigate around. I personally, especially in my cash games, will probably stay away just because you don't know. SMU's not going to be competitive. Like it's going to be a 60-plus point score with probably at least a 40-point spread. And you just don't know what that means in terms of how the production will fall. So it scares me. Stuff like that scares me.
All right, I agree.
Whereas in the middle of the season, you're at least going to get 3 strong quarters out of your starters. But just was really easy. That's teams you want to find. When you can find, like I said, some of my favorite teams to target in the passing game last year: Cincinnati, SMU, Cal. You just knew that like when they were on the schedule that they were really easy targets because their defense just bled.
Right.
2014, SMU had the 114th ranked passing offense, the 8th worst rushing offense, the 2nd worst overall offense, the 109th ranked passing defense, the 117th ranked rushing defense, the 7th worst overall defense. They scored 11.1 points per game, which is the worst in the country. They allowed 41.3, which is the 2nd most. And if I said this team was a train wreck last year, I don't even know if I'm doing it justice.
Yeah, and here's a scary stat. Their scoring margin last year was minus 363. That was worse, actually, than their first year back from the death penalty in 1989 when they were minus 312. So that tells you something right there, that they could go through the death penalty and be better than they were last year. This team might still be on the death penalty, and then it's so sad to say, gone are the days of, Erickson and James and the Pony Express, and, hopefully everybody's had a chance to watch that 30 for 30 on SMU because it's a really good one. This team has never been the same, never will be the same. It's sad because this is a team that was competing for national titles at one time, and now they're at the bottom of the barrel. And I've actually read a couple places that they're considering dropping to 1AA or dropping the program completely. That won't be for a couple of years, but I think they need to do something because they can't compete in the Division I level. They just can't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start. Could they even compete at the Division II level? I mean, they'd have a better shot, but I still don't think that they're going to go in there and be ultra competitive.
No, they could drop down to 1AA and have a winning season, maybe make the playoffs a couple years. But this is an embarrassment of a team, and I hate to say that because SMU has a storied tradition, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then obviously when the death penalty hit, which was a travesty in itself because the NCAA came down and literally took everything from them, and I didn't agree. I don't agree with the death penalty. And obviously I wasn't alive when the death penalty happened. I was like a month old when it happened. But 85. But, dude, it's just sad. I mean, this team, there's nothing to talk about from this team because they have, Chad Morris coming in his first season. They have nothing. The cupboard is bone dry.
Yeah, I mean, they have players.
Yeah.
But it's last year
could they compete in any conference? Could they compete in any conference? If you put them in the Sun Belt, could they compete?
No.
I don't either. I don't think
they might not be the worst team there.
I don't think they can win 3 games in the Sun Belt.
But there were some teams I don't think won 2 games. But I'm just saying, just to illustrate, they wouldn't go into any other division and be competitive.
No, I don't. Maybe Division 3.
It's really tough. Garrett Kristich is, I think there's too many vowels or too many consonants before the vowel, so I don't know how to pronounce words like that. I'm sorry. Krstich. Kristich.
Okay.
I need vowels to work with, Drew. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand how you could throw so many vowels or so many consonants together. I had a finance professor. She had like 5 vowels in a row, starting with an X as her first name. And I was
fun.
like, how am I supposed to make sense of this? How am I supposed to refer to you? You know? This phonetically, and we agree, we're both horrible at it.
Horrible.
We're both not good, but this is like really, really testing my intelligence here. Anyway, Garrett Kristich that's what I'm going to call him. That's his new name. If anyone knows him, just let him know because it's just going to be easier for all of us.
Yeah.
He got pulled. He just didn't look good. Matt Davis came in and he didn't look awful, but that's just by comparison. I don't know. You would have to assume that production would increase just because I can't imagine it getting lower. This is one of those very rare situations where I agree with the production will be better because I just don't see how it can be worse. You know?
Yeah.
You don't sound like you agree with that sentiment.
Dude, I'm just looking at their schedule and what they got to go through, and then looking at
Read their schedule. I'm just curious.
Baylor.
Okay, so possibly target Seth Russell, Corey Coleman, and anybody and everybody.
In North Texas.
Antoine Jimerson, maybe? I'm not sure. That could be a competitive game in a bad way.
At TC. Okay, well, put it this way. Last year they lost at North Texas 43-6.
Okay, so not competitive whatsoever.
At TCU.
Play Trayvon Boykin. He put up like 63 fantasy points against them last year.
James Madison, who's a 1AA team.
They'll probably lose that.
East Carolina.
Play Kurt Benkert.
At Houston.
Play everybody.
At South Florida. Competitive?
Pass.
Yeah.
Pass. I don't know about competitive, but just pass.
It was a 1-point game last year, but yeah. Tulsa.
Definitely Kevon Lucas.
Temple.
That's a good one. I'm going to say whoever... Oh, I'm going to say P.J. Walker.
At Navy.
Play Keenan Reynolds at 3 positions if possible.
Tulane and at Memphis.
Tulane is a little bit sketchy for me. I don't think they're that great, so I don't know that anyone will be over the top in that game. Against Memphis, that will be a hell of a way for Paxton Lynch to go out. That's all I'm saying. I could imagine a scenario where he puts up 500 total yards and 5 or 6 scores. That's legit.
Yeah, if they win 2 games, it starts building statues of Chad Morris.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. Did they win one at the end of last year?
Yeah, they beat UConn by 7 points.
I'm not going to normally laugh in the middle of our podcast, but that should just illustrate how bad UConn was last year.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think, obviously they're really bad. They're going to be just as bad this year. There will be a potential for some of their players in the right situation, like Darius Joseph, to possibly be used if quarterback play is better than last year. But for the most part, you just want to stay away.
Yeah.
Moving along, we'll go to Tulane. In 2014, they had the 87th ranked passing offense, the 94th ranked rushing offense, the 110th ranked overall offense, the 69th ranked passing defense, the 52nd ranked rushing defense, the 56th ranked overall defense. They scored 16 points per game, which was the 5th least in the country. They gave up 28.4 points. What is your take on Tulane?
I kind of put them in the same mold as the SMU thing. I don't know where they're getting any production on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback Tanner Lee threw 12 touchdowns last season, 14 picks, if my stats are correct.
No, they are.
That's horrible.
And it was less than 2,000 yards.
Running back Sherman Beatty, 3 touchdowns. Dude, I don't know. I mean, their best player on the team is cornerback Perry Nickerson, who had 6 picks last year. I don't know. I don't know what more to say about this team because target them. Whoever you're playing, target them. They play out of conference Duke at Georgia Tech and Maine. So play your players from Duke.
I'm going to go a little bit different with that. In just the aspect that I don't know if they're necessarily a team to target, because the other team doesn't need to score that much.
True.
So
That's a good point.
that if you're scoring 16 points per game and we're not seeing an increase in talent in other places on the offense, if they're still scoring under 20 points, there's not the passing game isn't going to be prevalent because you don't need to throw the ball to win.
Right.
You're playing ahead. You're going to run the ball, but if you're up by 10, 12, 14 points, I'm not going to say you're not going to be running it your hardest, but you're just really attempting to burn the clock down at this point.
Time management, run the clock down, like you said.
So, yeah, I think this is definitely one of the weaker teams in the conference. I wouldn't be scared to play anyone against them, but I also wouldn't be – it's not the same situation as SMU where it is I almost dropped the F-bomb.
Wow, that would have been censored.
The illustration is that you could play anyone and everything against SMU.
Yeah.
I don't know if that exists. This defense is at least competent.
Yeah, don't stack a team against Tulane, but don't be afraid to play a couple players.
I mean, just to be honest with you, there's very few sports that I'll stack in. Baseball, because somebody's play directly reflects someone else's. So if my guy's on base and another one of my guys hits a home run, I get 2 runs.
Right.
I will do sometimes like quarterback, wide receiver, maybe. But even then, I tend to try to stay away from that because a wide receiver needs yards and touchdowns, correct?
Right.
Yards and touchdowns through the air are worth less than yards and touchdowns on the ground.
Right.
So if you're playing a wide receiver that you expect to catch a lot of yards and touchdowns, the production is not equivalent on the quarterback side, meaning the quarterback is giving up potential rushing yards and rushing touchdowns to get those passing touchdowns. So I almost always prefer to find a good situation like that and just say, I'm going to play the wide receiver and I'm going to find one of these dual threat quarterbacks.
I agree.
There are certainly situations, Trayvon Boykin and Josh Doxson, perfect example of when I would not have a problem playing both of them against SMU.
Right.
I'm thinking about setting aside $1,000 just to play those two against SMU just for that day.
I don't
just
blame
because that's how confident I am. I'll tell you what, I'll go one further. You could probably play Trayvon Boykin, Aaron Green, and Josh Doxson. That's how messy that game is going to be. And they played their starters in that game until the third quarter, until the very beginning of the fourth quarter. And like I said, Boykin ended up with over 60 fantasy points.
Yep.
So we'll round out the AAC with Tulsa. In 2014, had the 37th ranked passing offense, the 90th ranked rushing offense, the 59th ranked overall offense, the 116th ranked passing defense, the 110th ranked rushing defense, the 117th ranked overall defense. They scored 24.7 points. They allowed 39.3, which was the sixth most, and in the previous podcast to this, I mentioned wide receiver Kevon Lucas as one of the guys I would be looking at if everything fell into place as being the guy who could potentially kind of have that Rashard Higgins type year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
That means a healthy offensive line that is giving the quarterback time to make decisions. That means solid quarterback play where you're not completing 55.4% of your passes and throwing a 23-17 touchdown to interception ratio. I think if those competencies increase, then Lucas could be in a great position here to see his best year yet. Ultimately, why I'm saying that is because this team was just brutalized last year, and part of the reason for that is that the offense just couldn't seem to figure out how to score.
Yeah, which is strange to me, but Dane Evans at the quarterback position is going to be pushed hard by true freshman Chad President, fun last name.
Awesome.
But I think Evans, is the guy leading this team, and you're right, Lucas, Josh Atkinson, Connor Floyd, these guys are all going to see an uptick in production. The offense returns too much experience and too much potential for them not to be better. Defensively, though, serious issues again this year.
I don't disagree. My curiosity when I look at a team like this is, was it a really bad defense, or was it the fact that they were just on the field all the time? You know,
and
or was it both? Really, was it both?
You only won 2 games last year. They lost 2 in overtime. They lost a couple that are kind of close games, 8 to 10 point games. It's kind of close, but yeah, their offense has got to find a way to put up some more points, and they should be better, like we said. So this is a team where, like I said, they return too much experience not to be better.
Right. So it is definitely going to be interesting to see where this team goes. If we were talking about a best team on this side of the conference, where do you sit?
I've been going back and forth with the top 3 teams, and that being Houston, Navy, and Memphis. I honestly think any 3 of the teams can win this side. I think for me it comes down to the quarterback play, and for me that's Houston. I do. I think it's Houston. I think the quarterback play takes them over, and I think Navy comes in second.
Wow, that's definitely.
I think Navy's that good, but I just don't know if that defense is good enough to stop people, because they take so much time off the clock on offense. So if they get behind in a game, that quick strike offense isn't there like Houston. So I like Houston this year on this side. I do.
Yeah, I think I would be looking at basically the same 3. Actually, I'm not going to really look at Navy just yet. I'd be looking at Houston and Memphis, and what comes down to it to me is I think that Lynch is a better quarterback than Greg Ward is.
Okay.
I like the Houston running backs much, much better than the Memphis backs. Wide receivers are kind of a wash, although I'll give the slight edge to Memphis because I like Alan Cross. I like a couple of other guys that they have at that position, such as Mose Frazier and Tevin Jones. I think there's a lot of talent there. Ultimately, I think Memphis's defense just takes too much of a step back this year from where it was at. And to me, that gives Houston the, kind of the better overall position in terms of the entire conference. Are we in agreement that it's Houston?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought you were going to go Cincinnati, but yeah, I think Houston is going to be able to put up enough points and outscore everybody.
Well, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. I mean, it's not just the points you score, but it's the points you keep your opponents from scoring. Mm-hmm. And Cincinnati's not proven that they could keep their opponents from scoring, whereas Houston has. Houston has proven that it's going to be tough to throw on them. To beat Houston this year, it really honestly looks like you're going to have to run the ball. And even at that, they don't have a horrible front 7.
Right.
Their front 7's fine. I wouldn't say it's anything over the top.
Yeah, not that scary. It's good enough.
It's scary enough that I would question playing people against them, but not scary enough that if it was a really high-end back that I would be like, I'm not playing them.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the offense, I do like Cincinnati's offense just a little bit better, but I like Houston's ability to keep that offense off the field a little bit more. So I would close this conference saying Houston's the team to beat. I'm in agreement. All right, if anybody wants to talk the AAC, where do they find you at, Drew? They can always find me on Twitter at CFBProsDrew. If they want to find you, where can they find you, Nick? They can find me at CFBPros on Twitter, College Football Pros on Facebook, www.cfbpros.com on the internet. Thanks for joining us for the AAC, and we will see you next week.